Okay, we're here for the second meeting of the day with Public Services.
Good morning, Commissioners. Savannah Clement with Public Services, and we have Building and Planning going first. Tracy, go ahead.
Morning, Commissioners. Not a lot on the agenda today.
Are you on?
On.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, can you hear me? Maybe. Not a lot on the agenda today. Not tomorrow, but next Tuesday, we have the flood hazard management plan in front of the board. That's the one that we had a contract with Tetra Tech. We got State Department of Ecology grant. The grant was about total, our money and their money was 300,000. So yeah, it was a lot. Year project wrapping up. Ecology has approved the plan. It's presented it to the board. So that'll be in front of you.
When you say present, in what form will it be? Some form of high level overview?
Nothing, just that, yes.
Okay.
And then
So is the plan including a change in elevation like was
That-
discussed? or-
that's the flood management ordinance.
And this
floodplain
one
management.
is,
That's not this. This is the flood hazard plan. It's in cahoots with emergency management and the flood evacuation. Two separate.
Okay.
Yeah, the base flood elevation is going black.
How much time are you allowing for this?
It's just a board, just a timed item.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it shouldn't take long.
That's what I'm afraid of. It should probably, I mean, if we spend that kind of money, I would think there'd be a lot of questions.
Possibly. They've done a ton of outreach, open houses in different locations of the county, work groups. They've done a lot of outreach already, so the public has been well aware, and there have been many entities that have worked on this.
how many people have actually shown up?
Well, we have had a lot in the work groups. A lot of cities, counties, and different entities have taken part in the plan. So it's, I bet you we've had 20 and 40 these groups, depending on the location and what the topic was.
The thing that I wanted to point out is that somebody's ton is not that many people. You can have a lot of meetings, but do you get the word out? I mean, that's a different issue,
Right.
is whether your outreach has been successful or not. So,
Yeah, that's a
you
pertinent
know, and so
question.
what happens is if we have not been effective at outreach, as you've
Mhm.
mentioned, then there's the last minute folks who get riled up over some phrase and then they come here and
Correct.
You've got a whole bunch. So just kind of be prepared.
Yep.
I think that's fair to, you know,
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. It's a thought that came through my mind, but how often do we get told, but you didn't tell us?
that's right, all the time.
Often.
Yeah.
And then just reminding the board that the burn ban was lifted last Saturday. This last Saturday.
It's on the radio.
That's all I had. We're having a Seahawk party downstairs. You're all welcome to join us.
What,
Oh,
what,
they played
what's
tonight,
the part-
right?
Play tonight, Monday Night Football. We're just having a team. downstairs.
aren't they the same thing?
Yes.
Well, at the hotel, the 23 Club is having their centennial celebration. So there you go.
Well, there you go.
Okay, we have quite the agenda today, so I will try to move through it efficiently. So next we have facilities maintenance, and wanted to give the board the Hall of Justice tree trimming update. We had that project going on last week. And so I have Will here to give us a little synopsis.
Morning, Commissioners, Will Tosser, Facilities Manager. We went ahead and first step of the parking lots, we trimmed all the trees. On the north side, those plums were in bad shape. They were dying, so we took out all the plums on the north parking lot. They trimmed up an oak on the corner between that north parking lot and the maintenance shop. And the tree was in bad shape after the trimming, so we ended up taking that one down as well. With that, they also trimmed on the west side of the building along First and Third Avenue away from the building. Some of those trees were within proximity of the building, which caused some animals to get on the building and vice versa. So they went ahead and trimmed those. And then on the south lot, they trimmed the canopy up to 17 feet. The arborists were recommended 15, but you know, in order to make it last a little bit longer, they trimmed up to 17 feet and 17 feet. Towards the old Charlie's building, in that lot, every other tree was in bad shape. Like when they planted them, you know, some stronger trees took the nutrients. So every other tree was a weaker tree. So they took out every other there, as well as the ones in the parking lot in order to prep for that asphalt replacement.
Every other means alternating?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
thank you.
If you had seen it before, it was you know, a large tree and then a small tree, large tree. So every other grew well, and there's weaker ones in between. They took those weakers out, which will allow growth.
So somebody didn't understand
When planting,
how close they should be. Yeah.
Yep.
It happens.
Yeah, so that's where we're at on that. Any questions?
The trees within the south parking lot were behind curbs.
Yep.
Okay, is that gonna be, is that gonna be removed? So it's one asphalt surface?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, he's talking about the medians.
Okay, so moving along, the steering committee update, and this is the facility needs steering committee, and I've been trying to give the board updates monthly. We will be meeting this month. And we plan to give back some feedback based on some homework assignments that we had that this committee had asked us to do. So just giving you a heads up, we'll be meeting soon, and I will give the board an update after that. We've been continuing to do facility walkthroughs. Most recently, we did a walkthrough of the Hall of Justice, Center Services, and OPD. To look at space utilization there. We just did another walkthrough last week at did a walkthrough that facility as well, and just seeing how groups are utilizing space and seeing is believing as far as maintenance needs and seeing some of those issues. That we're looking at the next budget cycle. Hopefully, we'll have updates on that as well.
So I just wanted to make a suggestion with your microphones. You
It's
see how it's
quiet
like this
today.
and you can't hear? If you have it in line with where you're looking,
Hello.
like the bass.
They both sound pretty quiet today. Better?
That's better.
Hey.
Yes.
This might have some
I know it's,
some chest. So, okay. Sure.
Question on that. When was the last time we did this walkthrough?
For which location, juvenile or the Hall of Justice?
Across the board?
No idea.
I think I know the answer. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
not since the pandemic first hit. And it might have been earlier.
Could have been, yes.
Hasn't been done since the reorganization. So, and that was about 15 facilities directors ago.
Yeah, I mean,
No, I'm sorry, not quite that.
I
many.
don't recall a particular time while I've been here that any such, what seems like the comprehensive approach has been taken.
I know.
So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're learning a lot, that's for sure. Speaking of facility use, I do have tomorrow morning at the 9 a.m. a facilities use agreement for Community Integrated Health System, CIHS. And that, just as a reminder, is that general use lease. So they're not paying any money to the county because they are using that space as needed. So that means they will not have any fixtures in that space. They will not have phone lines dedicated to that space. It truly is a multi-use space.
You should see that on the consent agenda tomorrow.
All right, any more questions for Will regarding facilities? We go to parks. Thank you. So last week, the board had asked a couple questions regarding status updates on some of the parks projects. So I just followed up with Alyssa. She gave me some updates on the County Wind bathroom proposal, and I did want to confirm that price came in at about $38,000 for that bathroom facility. And it's currently in purchasing. So she's working with Ashley Thompson and going through the picture of the bathrooms, and then we'll give an update as far as installation. We don't have a lead time yet, but once we have one.
I think the estimate was 40, wasn't it? So.
I
that's-
had 40 in my head
Yeah.
as well, and that's why I wanted to
Very
confirm with her, and so that was right. about.
Yep.
Regarding the comprehensive plan, it's currently with 2 cities, Kalama and Castle Rock, and we're doing public comment right now. So once we move forward with that process, the board an update on where that's.
Can you remind me if the solution to the bike trail around Green Mountain is included in the plan at all?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I will check. And it's a bike trail. Can you say that one more time?
It's the Woodland Overpass proposal for the bike trail
Okay.
at Green Mountain.
I will find out. Okay,
And the other thing to be aware of, I think I mentioned last week, was this big overpass for wildlife. The wildlife overpass.
the green space overpasses. Okay.
And whether or not that's going to involve the county at all.
Is that also Woodland? Is it the
No,
similar?
that one is actually up north of Castle Rock. Although I think it might be an interesting idea to tie the two together.
I wonder, riding a bicycle right alongside a moose might.
All right.
Okay, and then the last parks item is Mike Moss had brought the board, kind of a last minute, we had just been made aware of it, an RCO grant opportunity called the Local Parks Maintenance Grant. It's a zero match. It was due, I think, that week. Alyssa just wanted to give the board an update that she did apply for it, and we should find out by the end of October as to if we were awarded the grant or a portion of the grant. All right, if I'm moving along, so any questions on any parks updates or any other homework items?
So every time you look at Arn, we can't hear you.
I'm not. Okay,
There you go.
all right, better. Okay, Sean Rowe, did you want to give a purchasing update?
We've all done that.
You gotta watch out for those
Super
table
quiet.
ends there. So we just wanted to give an update on purchasing. Last week, you guys had asked about that.
Mhm.
So as you know, we still have our open position in purchasing, our purchasing specialist. Review process on that. Other than that, our buyer actually has been working with other departments as needed to get projects through.
So there's 2 people in that department and one's vacant right now.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
And the buyer position's exempt, and then we are currently looking to fill the purchasing specialist position, which is a 12.
So how's the process being done if the position is vacant?
So we went out to 1262 to open the bid, and we had 1 signer. And so we'll be interviewing that signer this week,
How long has it been vacant, though? I
2
guess-
weeks.
Oh,
Tanya Richardson, who just went to
Okay.
OFM, that was her previous position.
Okay.
Very recent. Okay, so moving to public works items, Susan Eugenius. Come on down.
I'm the next contestant today. At least I don't have to cheer like I'm on The Price is Right, so we're doing good. So this week for Public Works on your agenda, on the consent agenda is the Lama River Road culvert project closeout. That's the project that the road crew did at milepost 2.04. And crab rules are it's a capital project. We advertise beforehand, we have the cost of county and advertise at the end. So this is the closeout process for that. The original estimate was 160,000 and the road crew was just over 70. That this is us just doing our project paperwork next year. That is what that project is. And the next item,
Didn't we have I remember we had a couple of these where you were gonna bid them out and you just decided we'd do them ourselves because it'd be cheaper, and this was one of those.
this was
right?
one of them, yes,
Yeah.
and they completed the one and the other one we did not get to. So that one you won't see again this year. We'll have to make a decision if we're going to.
Yeah.
So is this where the Kalama River is culverted, or is this a creek feeding into the?
This is a creek feeding. It goes across Kalama River Road at milepost 2.04. It was a deeper culvert, so it's not one that usually goes south. It also has are not past the road. Part of the crab paperwork. Large project. You have to notify, you have to report, contractors. Forces, we have a limit.
Yeah, I'm seeing Q and As where people are having trouble hearing because you really have to,
These are acting up with Savannah.
yeah, that one is acting up also, but you can almost override the acting
Eat
up,
it. Okay.
Like,
So, but the thing is, when you turn to look at us, which is fine, you just about have to have the base right in front of us. Even
Test. Oh,
there.
this is much better.
Yeah,
Do you
even
wanna
looking
switch?
sideways, that was much
Yeah,
better.
this is, do you want to?
No, I can
Okay.
finish this out and
Okay.
then when you can use that one on yours since it should be longer. I'll be eating my mic.
so then I want to be sure I understood our estimate for that culvert replacement, had we gone to a contractor, was 160K.
Yes,
But then you decided we could do it in-house and it came in at 75K.
$72,444.95. That was our cost accounting that we ran through. So all the time, all the equipment, all the materials.
And that's all accounted for, no trick in there.
There's no trick. That is through our accounting software. We're used.
So in a situation like that, you're taking our work crew and putting them on a construction project.
Mhm.
What maintenance work is not being done then?
So this summer, one of the things that we did not chip seal this summer, so our road crews had a little more time, because usually they're doing that. So we replaced it and we did this project instead.
So when I complain about prices, I'm not totally out to lunch.
No.
Well, and it sounds like you can only do this so many times.
Yes, there is. a
Most
cap-
times you're kind of forced to bid it out.
Right,
Did
it's
I-
based on time and then we have a threshold limit and I don't know the number, but I can have it with me tomorrow. That is our maximum we can do with our. system. And has a maximum we can do based on their population. and voted on the dollar amount. It's a percentage. That you can and can't. It's even tighter on a left. It's much smaller than it is. Since we don't have traffic signals, it's not something we should. It's when we're doing culverts, last year we did Ballot Road run that part through, when we put in the temporary bridge. That part in Hill. So those are ones that are considered as using.
Thank you.
So the next item I have is install, upgrade curb warning signs and update to the local agency agreement with WashDOT. We opened that project bid on September 12th, and the bids came in high. This is a project that was made with WashDOT SIP funds, Highway Safety Improvement Program, and that program is a virtual program. So we've worked with WashDOT and come to an agreement that they will help our allotment by $111,700 to cover the increased cost of the contract. So this is the paperwork to get that new agreement.
Nice. And that just reflects inflation since
Yes,
the last contract. Huh? Wow.
so that we are
But-
moving forward with that. We were happy to get the extra money.
It seemed like, was it the reflective paint that's really gone up in cost? We had another project that there was this huge price increase because of paint.
So reflective paint is going up, and next year I'm working, there is a whole bunch of new regulations coming in place about activity and how we have to test for it and how often we have to paint due to that. So we're looking into how we're going to test it, what we're going to change our paint materials. That is one of the projects on, because can be an expensive proposition that we may have to go out and stripes of the roads twice a year. And so that's why we're looking at all the materials and how we're actually testing, because if you have to be 63 or older and driving at night to do visual test, or you can buy a calibrated machine. And they request that you have someone that's also has vision. So this is what they're working. It's an interesting law that I was it's in the new MEPC.
So I suppose this is another duty for the Board of Commissioners.
White line fever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you need anything from us on that contract, just our own?
No, it was just an overview.
Okay,
It's on
okay.
tomorrow's agenda.
All right.
Okay, this is much better. Just moving on, our last item, which might take a few minutes, is the WinCam Software Bid Award. So I'm going to give you guys some information, and then I'll come back and present.
Thank you.
Okay. So a little bit of background and overview for the public and those in the room that weren't here last week when I kind of talked about bringing this up today. Mike and I started, Mike Moss, the current director, started at Public Works 6 years ago. One of the main tasks the board had asked us to do was really take a deep dive into the accounting and finance situation at Public Works, of which we did. And it took a considerable amount of time by design. We wanted to make sure that we weren't just throwing software solutions at a problem. And we wanted to identify how many systems we used, what processing time looked like, what errors we were finding. We've gone through several auditing cycles to understand what our needs are. In addition to, we hear a lot CRAB, so County Road Administration Board. They actually are authorized by the state to follow through on the statute requirements. And what those are requirements for reporting, which we do several times a year. And it's a statutory requirement to have a maintenance management system, and that's in all Washington counties. So that's what we're trying to comply to. In order to meet that, previous managers in accounting had developed their own in-house database systems through Access and Excel. And that's what actually we're currently utilizing, and I wouldn't recommend it. I don't know any other counties in Washington that utilize Access and Excel to meet these reporting requirements for a reason. So in doing our research, we went to other counties and asked them what they were using and why. Most of them, so 29 of the 39 are using WinCams, which is the bid award for tomorrow morning. We also did some research as to what counties utilize both WinCams and PeopleSoft. I don't know if the board's aware, but not a ton of counties utilize PeopleSoft, and those that do are in California. So several California jurisdictions utilize both WinCams and PeopleSoft. So we reached out to them and understood their processes, asked them if they were having issues or if they liked it. Most of the counties and agencies we touched base with have been utilizing WinCams for years. So a little bit of a background also on WinCams. So they've been around for about 25 years. They were selected by the Washington State Association of County Engineers as the preferred software system to meet these kind of, I don't want to say crazy, but stringent reporting requirements. Those requirements consist of project cost accounting, which you'll probably hear a lot of, or you've heard us mention. And so that is comprised of a multiple string of account information to essentially identify a project in order to effectively cost it. And when I say cost, that means three main elements. So labor was an obvious one, fringe benefits, so our benefits, and then lastly, our equipment rates, all of which I'm sure you've heard of the last couple of years. So before we selected WinCams, we did utilize training opportunities for PeopleSoft. So when I first started in Public Works, we did, I don't know, a couple of months worth of in-depth weekly training with Kim Horton IT to go over potential modules that we could use that we already had purchased, which is the most obvious thing to do would be just to go with PeopleSoft, because why wouldn't we? After a couple of months of training, we recognized that we weren't going to be able to build modules that could capture both benefits and equipment tables, which are two of our three main elements to cost at a simplified level. Fortunately, the health department, I believe they're still utilizing it, was able to utilize one of the tables in project costing, which is great for them. We could not because of the way, I don't know if Sean wants to jump in, but because of the way we currently cost out benefits at the payroll level, without going too much in the weeds, it wasn't going to work out for us the way we needed to get those costs. Additionally, we could not incorporate equipment rates, which the health department, to my knowledge, didn't have to worry about. So from there, we went out to bid back in 2021 to find out, hey, is there a way to get this to happen within PeopleSoft? So we got multiple bids back. Those bids, and I think I quoted on here, range from $375,000 to $1.2 million at the high end to utilize existing modules within PeopleSoft to get what we wanted. Once we recognized those cost figures and read some of these requests for proposals, we understood that that was not the route that we wanted to go or the price that we wanted to pay to get there. And that's when we decided to put it in the budget back in 2021 and go forward with looking at a different software solution. So that's kind of what brought us here. We did go out to bid and we back in July and we received two responses. One was from WinCams at approximately $225,000, and the other was Harris Gov, which you also may have heard of. They're a pretty well-known government ERP system. They also responded at over $400,000. The difference is their response was more of a general ledger ERP system, enterprise system, which is not what we were looking for. We have one of those, and that's PeopleSoft. So we would like to move forward in selecting WinCams as our project cost accounting software. Okay, moving on to Public Works accounting issues. Multiple issues as I discussed. We have considerable systems that we use. I've talked about Excel, Access, and just to add on a few more fun ones, Laserfish we currently use for multiple systems. We use the interface for the portal system to upload our payroll, and then of course PeopleSoft. Again, in trying not to go down in the weeds, and I do because I've been looking into this for the past 5 years, we upload thousands of lines of payroll every payroll cycle, thousands. I mean, it takes an immense amount of time to process all the information we're pushing into PeopleSoft, and unfortunately, we can't extrapolate that back out in our reporting, which is really a bummer. So what we're hoping to do is through WinCams, being able to capture all that data, cost it, create real-time reports, satisfy our state level reporting requirements, and then also, of course, reduce costs and the amount of time it's taking all of our staff to do this. So I've talked about the steps, the systems, the processing time. One thing that I don't know that I've been able to highlight since I've been talking over the last couple of weeks about WinCams is the missing data element. We currently, our inventory system is antiquated. It is not a true inventory system. We price things as we purchase them and we try to capture them when we take them out. But Access is truly a database. It's not a system that we can necessarily configure to construct inventory through reporting. So that's one thing when I say missing data in my little presentation sheet, that's what I'm referencing. Unsupported programs, again, we're using an Access database to manage, millions of dollars in accounting and finance. Our cash receipting is done through Access, which to me is a problem. And I'm hoping that utilizing WinCams will offer more security in that sense as well. Before I continue talking, do you guys have any questions so far?
Am I reading the chart correct? Am I reading the chart correctly that you may be reducing staff by about 3.5?
No, that's staff processing time. You're ahead. Are you at the very last page?
Of course.
Oh,
They always start.
not
Yeah.
reducing staffing or reducing processing time. That's the hope.
You're reducing what?
Processing time that it takes for staff.
Yeah.
So I can give an example. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I looked at the example of the Excel, that's a nightmare.
Yes,
That's
you
a
have to see it to believe it.
Yeah, that's a nightmare. And what I'm reading here, just to make PeopleSoft work for us, it's anywhere from 375,000 to 1.2 million. Is that
That's
what I'm
correct. That's based
understanding?
off of the proposals from
And
2021.
WinCams is at basically 226,
Yes.
plus it'll integrate with stuff we need from PeopleSoft.
So it will have the ability to import and export to and from PeopleSoft.
Okay.
Yes.
And so I do have a question on the last page, but
Okay.
prior to this, I think this is a good job. I want to be sure that I know you just don't bring WinCams in the door and it magically operates everything. So you've included employee time.
I've tried to capture employee time where I know, where I have knowns. Some of them I don't know how much we would be able to reduce staff time. They're unknowns because we don't have current processes in place that could even, it's like apples to oranges to try to give you guys that number.
My rule of thumb would be as long as you're not backsliding and you get out of everything, all the data you need and in a proper fashion with good reliability,
Mhm.
then if you save time, that's going to be a plus. And of
Mhm.
course, that's a nice objective. But the first question is always, do you solve your problem? And I think you do, or at least you've convinced me you do, but I am still going to ask, are you going to have a WinCams expert in the office? Do you recognize that you're going to need a go-to person?
Correct. Great question. And I appreciate that, I was really struggling on the data piece to try to really come up with some dollar figures to show cost savings. So I appreciate that you're seeing this at the bigger picture as well. But going on to your question, we recognize that we'll need to have an in-house, I call, subject matter expert. Now, does that person have to be, an IT application specialist? No, other counties do not have an in-house IT support position who currently run WinCams. However, I had come to the board a few weeks back recognizing that to elevate a position that would include extra duties regarding the WinCams implementation, integration, and then of course, moving forward, which the board was agreeable to. So that's how I'm kind of solving that problem. Hopefully that answered your question.
Okay, and oftentimes in the past, we're faced with not dissimilar kinds of things, but they seem like they fall apart invariably. You've taken quite a bit of time here, but I do want to say I I hope there are no surprises and I'm not sure how I should have said that,
No,
but in any event, okay, on the last slide, just trying to understand what it means, like the very first line, timesheet, daily 2 or 3 hours per day,
yes.
and then 5 to 6 employees. How do I translate that?
Sure. So we'll skip to the back page if everybody's good with all the in between. It's more of the same information. So this I added last because I was trying to come up with a really high level simplified way of explaining how we do things without boring everyone. So the timesheet example which is hundreds of lines of data on Excel, and then it has multiple tabs that cross-reference, has VLOOKUPs, includes project and activities. These are done at the shop level daily. So a supervisor comes in, so we have 4 supervisors at the roads, and I'll stick to roads only for now. They come in an hour early every day, and they spend that hour doing their daily time cards, auditing for the time card from the day before, preparing their time card for that day. So they're included in our processing time. They then submit daily to our accounting specialist, who then spends the next hour, up to 2 hours, checking for errors. I sampled one in August, one pay period, and there was 14 errors that she audited. So that's also, she catches the error, she turns it back to the supervisor works with the staff, they correct it, re-sign it, because everything has to have a wet signature currently, and then it's reprocessed. So that time is, I've tried to capture that time and the amount of time it takes and how many employees actually touch these timesheets.
But how does WinCams help that?
Great question. So WinCams will actually has a time card interface that, funny enough, these Excel spreadsheets were copied from. So they look very similar in how they're set up. And we have the ability to create templates. So if a road crew supervisors do similar projects, depending on the time of year, right? We do ditching certain times of the year, road cleaning certain times of the year. These templates will be built in, and they can select a template for that project and activity that's already pre-populated with their staffing levels. All they'll have to do is confirm the hours worked. So that's how WinCams can integrate a template that is error proofing. They can't take projects and activities that don't match, because that's also a current problem. Time reporting codes are also built into these templates. So again, I deep dive, but that is how WinCams can help solve this timesheet problem that we have. It will eliminate that Excel timesheet that I had sent you from the equation. That will be gone.
You'll still have to do what the managers do every morning, come in and look at over all the data, right?
Correct. So supervisors will still have to come in and select a template, and then also, verify who's there that day and who's not there that day. But instead of doing them daily, they can reduce them to a weekly process as well, so that they're not doing everything on a daily basis for an hour, or say it's cut down to a half hour with a new template. They can instead do it maybe once a week at the end of the week, as opposed to daily.
Okay. Well, I remember something last week, not as well as I remember what I did yesterday.
Very true. But they would have the capability to save their timesheets and then reissue them or re-audit them at the end of the week.
I'm just suggesting you'll improve the data quality some, but I don't see anything monumental here. I mean, certainly making sure that the codes are correct or the job
Yes.
allocation correct. That's a big win.
Yes. Did you have something to add on that front?
Well, I was just gonna add, when we're looking at these when we're looking at these timesheets from a supervisor's point of view, I definitely recognize that it won't go away. I think the goal is to reduce that time, say from maybe an hour to half an hour on a daily basis. We extrapolate that across the year, it really grows into a large time savings. They can be doing activities on the road or what.
So can you say you have whatever the project is, and the people you have work on that project. So at the beginning of the week, you just schedule them out for that project. And basically what you're doing is any adjustments to that. If they went home half a day sick or,
Yes.
or that type of thing.
You just be like essentially modifying that template. that already exists, that you've established, and then that's what maintenance management is you are budgeting for projects ahead of time and establishing budgets ahead of time. So this daily timesheet feeds into that bigger need of trying to budget, allocate, and plan for future activities.
We had employees would do the input and but you know, in my world, employees all have to sit at computers. You got people out working on the road. So I understand it's a little different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any other questions? Things you'd like me to highlight? I know less is more, so I'll just try to end with this, that to Commissioner Mortensen's point, you know, this isn't going to completely eliminate the need for certain, you know, pieces of checks and balances, but it's going to greatly reduce the majority of steps and processing time that we have to take in town internally. And then the bigger piece I think that is important for the board is accountability and transparency, which is very hard to deliver right now with the patchwork reporting that we have to provide. So I'm looking forward to that piece.
So you're going to reduce the amount of paperwork they do so they can do more supervising out on the job. I
That
mean,
would be fantastic for
that's-
supervisors on the
That
roads.
should
Yes.
be the worthy goal.
Yep. That's actually a goal that I hadn't even considered that. Yeah, very true. And that is all I have for today.
Okay.
And the boss is?
Muzzle loading season.
Okay.
That sound right? He's filling a
thought
musket
that's-
and yeah, he should be back Wednesday.
We had executive session. For what and how long?
I believe it was 10 minutes, what Jessica was thinking.
And performance of a public
That's
employee?
correct. Yeah.
Okay. If nothing else, we will go to executive session.
The board is extending the executive session for a period of 10 minutes until 12:22. The board is extending the executive session for a period of 10 minutes until 12:32.
We're back from executive session. No decisions were made. Jessica, I'll turn it over to you.
Good afternoon, Jessica Warren, Human Resources. I do have one request from the board. Would request to fill a public records analyst position within the board's office at salary grade 500.
I'll make the motion to approve the recommendation from staff.
Okay, we have a motion. I don't see any hands. Call for a vote in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.
Any miscellaneous? I'll ask one thing only because it brought up, and so I just want to know where we stand on this. When we were talking about budget, we came upon an account that we could use from park funds. There were some park funds that were sitting there. Some funds that could be used in a park setting. The conversation got around to the kayak launch for Kelso. And that we would have the ability to help with that, but they haven't asked. So it just crosses my mind. Is it something we want to pursue or just let it lie unless they approach us?
Depends on what you mean. But I'd like to support them, but I don't think, it always seems strange to me that I gotta bring somebody and say, can I help you? When they should really be asking us and saying, and that also is, it's very, it's more expensive than it should be, like we noted earlier on a project that,
Yeah, I remember it being,
So you're talking about the cumulative reserve fund that is funded by lodging tax that's supposed to promote tourism? I think that.
Yes,
That was, okay, that.
So,
that one.
so Kathy Funk Baxter, Finance Director, it was when we were talking about the tourism funds and the sales, lodging sales tax that's dedicated towards tourism. And so we have a fund balance in our cumulative reserve. And we also have that particular sales tax.
yeah. And I'm not showing a preference either way. I just remember the conversation. So I said, well, we better ask and see if we have any interest in.
yeah, is that something that the lodging tax board should approve? I don't understand enough of what
Yeah.
these various,
So your LTAC would address if it's a grant, if it's considered a grant. They're there to evaluate grants, and so my recommendation is if they're interested, they need to submit a grant.
So it would be,
I
the
like
city of
that.
Kelso would have to initiate something with this LTAC committee.
Mhm.
Okay,
Go through the process.
yeah, I
works
like
for
that.
me.
That's the right thing.
Yeah.
We can notify the mayor of Kelso and just say, send a request.
yeah. And that all works for me. I just
Okay,
didn't want to leave that comment sitting on the table without at least talking about it and seeing where the interest was. Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
I'll go ahead and talk to this city manager of Kelso about this then.
Okay.
That's good.
Any other miscellaneous? Seeing none, we will thank you for the day and adjourn.